Set 172 years before the events of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon tells the story of Viserys Targaryen's reign as king during a time of peace for the Seven Kingdoms. Tension rises when he names his daughter heir to the throne, and as time passes, the seeds of war are planted. House of the Dragon is a very worthy spin-off and successor to Game of Thrones. In many ways, House of the Dragon is just more Game of Thrones, but more focused and condensed, with a nippier pace and larger arc and narrative to tell. It has all the same high quality production values, visuals, acting and crew of Game of Thrones, as well as the gory, gritty action, the sex and nudity, and just about everything else you would associate with Game of Thrones. The narrative and story of House of the Dragon is an interesting one. It focuses in on the Targaryen family and their reign in King's Landing, with events jumping forward in time, sometimes by weeks, other times by many years. The time jumps are perhaps the biggest and arguably only issue with House of the Dragon's first season. All the time jumps occur between episodes, meaning we only ever see the before and after events of such gaps in time. This often left me feeling as though I had missed out, that large moments were overlooked or ignored, and that the story was rushing along at an uncomfortable pace, potentially risking any character development. Additionally, along with the time jumps comes recasting. Many of the characters start off as young individuals, and after a few episodes I grew to like them and admire their performances, only for a time jump to suddenly rob me of their presence in exchange for a new actor entirely. The recasting works well in updating the ages and appearances of certain characters, but it again feels like a wasted opportunity, rushing the story along to the point the writers should have started at to begin with. It's disappointing that actors like Millie Alcock and Emily Carey only appear in the first half of the season and vanish, potentially to never be seen again. When such recasting happens in House of the Dragon, it often feels like a reset point or a new start. Certain characters appear similar but older, and some recasting choices are simply baffling, with certain new actors looking too old or tall to portray the older versions of certain characters. At the same time, there are certain actors like Matt Smith who show no signs of aging whatsoever as the season progresses. I would argue that the first big time jump and major recasting should have been saved for the end of the season, leading into season 2 rather than halfway through this season. Time jumps aside, the story being told is a good one. There are thrilling and suspenseful moments, political intrigue is rife, there are movements and machinations with some characters plotting for the future, vying for the Iron Throne. If you've ever watched Game of Thrones, the story doesn't necessarily do anything new or unique, but it is an enjoyable one and it gets better as it progresses and as the pace of the jumps slows down a bit. The final 2 episodes of the season are fantastic too, with characters finally making moves they've been building up to throughout the season, showcasing just how well the story has been plotted and planned. In terms of writing, it's brilliant, with great dialogue and moments of silence and the conveying of looks used to develop characters well also. Appearances in aging and jarring recasting aside, the cast of actors in House of the Dragon are some of the best around. Paddy Considine portrays King Viserys as a man desiring peace, while also being torn and beaten by health issues throughout his life. His portrayal of the king battling with his position and health is a heartbreaking one, and he is fantastic in the role. Matt Smith, meanwhile, is his younger brother, Daemon, a younger, brasher, more aggressive Targaryen who once wanted the throne for himself and who takes whatever he wants and flaunts his Targaryen name and position in the process. As the season progresses, he becomes an uncomfortable and unpredictable character, making every scene he's in an uneasy, tense experience to watch. It's again a great performance. It's Millie Alcock and Emily Carey who are the real highlights though, as the young Rhaenyra Targaryen and Alicent Hightower respectively. They're only in the first half of the season, but they managed to make their characters incredibly likeable and charming and engaging, to the point that it's sad when they vanish and are recast by 2 very good older actors. The younger depictions of these characters plant the seeds for what's to come, with the end of a friendship followed by a lifelong grudge that becomes deadly in intent, purely out of circumstance and the choices of other characters. Both the young and older depictions of these characters do a great job at portraying the conflict within and around them. making them complex, layered individuals with clear goals, desires and motivations. House of the Dragon continues the trend of HBO shows with high production values, great visuals and movie-like special effects. The sets, the locations, the costumes and the CGI are all brilliant. In a nice touch, many of the familiar locations the Thrones fans have now been tweaked a little to better represent the descriptions in the books. The Iron Throne, for example, is now more menacing and imposing than before. This not only helps please fans of the book, but helps keep this show feeling fresh by differentiating itself visually, even ever so slightly, from Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon is a great spin-off and successor to Game of Thrones. Across the board, the production, the cast, the writing is all fantastic. It tells a compelling story that's clearly just beginning, and it does a really good job at portraying the life of the Targaryen family and those in it. The only slight negatives are those of the time jumps, which often result in a stop and start feel to the show, left me feeling as though I had missed out, and resulted in a fast pace that sometimes feels as though the writers are rushing through the story. Overall though, this is a really good show.